A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam & Company. My name is Cam Edwards. I'm glad that you've joined us on the program today. Coming up in just a matter of moments, Alex Bosco is going to join us, the founder and CEO of SB Tactical. And we're going to spend today's show talking about the situation with Q LLC, the makers of the Honey Badger pistol. The ATF, which has now declared that this pistol is a short-barreled rifle and has sent a cease-and-desist letter to Q LLC, warning them not to sell their product anymore because the ATF says they're in violation of the National Firearms Act. Now, this not only has big repercussions for Q LLC as well as the buyers of the Honey Badger pistol, but as Alex Bosco with SB Tactical says, this has huge repercussions for the industry overall. And even if you are, let's say, a casual gun owner, you don't even have to be a gun owner. Even if you're just a Second Amendment supporter or somebody who is concerned about government overreach, this story should bug the hell out of you because this is clearly an example of some of the problems that exist within the ATF, these, vague and arbitrary rules that, frankly, the manufacturers themselves don't have access to. It is impossible, literally impossible, for a firearms manufacturer to understand in some cases whether or not their product is going to be approved or not, or disapproved retroactively even. And something has to change, as Alex Bosco with SB Tactical says. Take a look and a listen. Hey, Alex, thanks so much for coming on the show, sir. It's good talking to you today.
Good talking to you, too.
So help me out here. From a layman's perspective, what are we witnessing here with the ATF going after the Honey Badger pistol?
Well, I think if we're going to start, we got to start from the beginning. We don't even have to start from the beginning because I think most of the people that listen to the show understand what a brace is, understand why it was invented, understand what it is. I think most of the people that own a brace have been through the 2015 redesign, if you put it to your shoulder thing. What people probably don't know is that I made it my life's work to get that turned around. And after 2 years of begging, borrowing, stealing as much money as I could to talk to the right people in DC, we got that ruling, which was just an awful ruling, turned around. And the ATF essentially said in 2017 that you can sporadically, incidentally, or occasionally fire from the shoulder. Okay. And they wrote that letter to SB Tactical. We made that letter public, and everything kind of went crazy from 2017 till today. Well, what people don't know is that from 2017, I sat down with the ATF and said, listen, why don't we come up with a set of parameters under which we can operate to understand what is and what is not a brace? Okay. And the reason a company like ours, like any company that innovates in this industry, needs that is because, number one, the ATF is the regulatory agency. Number two, we're law-abiding citizens, so we don't want to run afoul of the NFA. And number three, we need to innovate. We need to come up with things. So if we don't understand what's what, we can't do it. I mean, most people know if I add that extra hole on an AR-15 low receiver, it becomes a machine gun. It's black and white. Okay, well, the brace issue has always been kind of this nebulous area. And the problem is that the ATF has always been, they have always wanted to be specific enough to enforce things, but vague enough to be difficult to comply to. And they don't have that right, not as a regulatory agency, okay? You need to be very specific, especially when, if we do run afoul of the NFA, we risk real legal consequences, like losing our ability to own guns, which is the one thing that all us Second Amendment lovers want to maintain, which is why we are the most law-abiding group of folks that you can find. We don't want to lose that right, okay? I'm not going to lose my freedom of speech if I go say something the wrong way. Well, the thing is, Q is making a brace, and the ATF has gone after them, and they're essentially saying that you need to recall these guns, okay, these Q Honey Badgers, under the force of law, and the parameters that we haven't given to anybody, we don't know. And if you don't abide by this, it's a 10-year felony offense. I mean, it's a scary situation. Now, the sky is not falling. Okay, it's not the end of braces. The ATF has essentially said that they look at guns now holistically, which means they're looking at things like scopes, if you put a scope on a gun, or sights, the weight of the gun, But again, it's vague, you know. It's really
right.
vague.
And that's a huge problem. As you say, you sat down with them going back to 2017, asking for those specifics. And making those public so that companies know what the rules are, they know what the regulations are, and they can follow those regulations. Instead, you get these, very vague determinations. And look, if the ATF wants to view these things holistically, that's one thing, but they're still not allowing manufacturers to understand what those parameters are. It sounds like.
That's exactly right. And again, from 2017 to 2019, actually from 2015 and before, I've always wanted to understand what the parameters were. I mean, we need to come up with new products. Well, essentially, all the times that I sat down with the ATF, and I sat down with the highest levels of the ATF, including the director of the ATF and chief counsel's office, which essentially are the people who are running the show, but that's for another discussion. But we sat down with them, and with my attorneys present, and my attorney is one of my attorneys is the former director of the ATF. His name's Mike Sullivan. He was a presidential appointee under Bush who was in these meetings. We sat down with him and said, listen, can SB Tactical come to the conclusion that as long as we maintain the same technology, that is 2 flaps made out of rubber with a strap that goes around it, are we good to go? And the ATF has always told us in these meetings, in the presence of my attorneys, okay, that yes, that we can do that. And I said, okay, well, if we can do that, and we see that there are several other products on the market, because I'm not the only brace maker in the market, there's other people. Some people through licensing, some people have come up with their own innovative ideas. And I've said, okay, well, here's our product, okay? Here's these other people's products. Can we agree that, we can agree that all of these things are parameters that we can see amongst these approvals. And essentially, we as innovators have always used these letters, these determination letters, to understand what we can and can't do. Well, the thing is, every ABC agency has to have a catalog of all of these letters. So if I'm an accountant, okay, and I want to understand if I'm doing things correctly, I can go to the IRS website and I could look up at how the IRS determines certain things so that I don't run afoul of the IRS. Well, do you think the ATF has a catalog of every letter that they've ever approved or disapproved? They don't. And what's worse is that I had to FOIA request, okay? And I had to FOIA request through the threat of lawsuit the agency to give me those documents. And we have thousands of those documents. And I will tell you, I know why they don't want to release those documents. Because you have documents that with the same product, you've got a pen. They'll say, this pen is okay for one person, and they'll say, this pen is not okay for somebody else. They're all over the place. They're an agency that needs to be reined in.
With those sort of arbitrary determinations, it sounds like basically there's no way for manufacturers to comply going forward. You've got to wait for the ATF. You've got to release your product, basically, send it to the ATF, wait for them to give that approval. But as you say, there's no rhyme or reason to what's getting approved and what's not.
Well, the ATF has been telling us in these meetings with my attorneys present, and this was towards the end. This was towards 2019, and we'll get into why I think this is happening. But after all these years of trying to sit down with them and trying to come up with determination parameters to understand what a brace is and is not, towards the end they started getting a little bit. I don't know what the word is, but it's obviously they're political. They started saying us submit, so kiss the ring, submit, okay, and we'll know it when we see it. This was the response from their head attorney was to the former director of the ATF that was sitting next to me and my attorneys. We'll know it when we see it. This is not the porn test, okay? There are legal consequences to not following the NFA or the GCA. And you, ATF, the regulatory agency, needs to give and come up with parameters, okay? And now, unfortunately, ATF, you have to come up with parameters for everything that you've approved. So come up with parameters for take all the approval letters that you've gotten, look at those parameters and let us know if that's okay. Because the reality of it is that a honey badger brace is the same thing as every other brace that we've ever made out there. It's 2 flaps, a strap, it's made out of rubber. There's no difference there. It's we're in. I've said this before on other interviews, but we're in la la land here, man. These people they're political hacks in the ATF, okay, that are doing nothing other than to want to frustrate the president's ability to be reelected. What better way to do that than weeks before an election, drop a bomb with the one group of people, the Second Amendment owners that have always voted for a president who was, in theory, Second Amendment lover? What better way to do that than to piss all those people off and say, oh, it's the president's ATF. He went after bump stocks. Now he's going after braces.
So you think that there's a definite political angle to the timing of this decision by ATF?
It's a fact. I'm not saying I'm saying that's the way it is. Now, there may be some confusion in the ATF. It's like the left hand doesn't talk to the right. There's a lot of that going on. It's a bureaucratic agency. And I don't want to disparage too bad the people that are there, because I'm sure some of those folks are great folks. Okay, I don't want to disparage them, but the way the ATF has been run has been terrible. And the two people at the head of the ATF are either complicit with what's going on or ignorant of. And as a prior military guy, if the top is, you blame the top, you don't blame the lower guys. So the top needs to, in my opinion, needs to go. And I got to tell you, like, a shout out to the NRA. I know that the NRA is not everybody's friend right now. I know there have been a lot of real problems with the very top of the NRA, and I've got my problems with those. We live in a free country. We can talk about it. But the only people that have come to my assistance so far have been the NRA. Jason Wemit is one of those people. He neck out in silence. Everybody. He's not looking for accolades. And I'm not one to want to, I was one of those people that was very angry with the NRA for a long time. But these people reached out to us. They've been told that they're speaking to the right people right now as we speak at the highest levels of political office. And I got to thank them, man, because it's like nobody, you would think Sig Sauer, okay, we sold braces with them for years. Have they reached out to me? Have they reached out to anybody? Crickets. All of the big boys, where are you? All of the people that ride on our coattails that make braces, where are you? Like, we need to be standing up as a community together. Let bygones be bygones, okay? We are a group of people that all believe in the same thing in some way, shape, or form. And if we can't get together come November, we are screwed. Totally screwed.
Yeah, I'm reminded of, what was it, Benjamin Franklin, right? We all hang together or we hang separately. And you're right, this is a time to hang together. What can gun owners do right now, Alex, to let their opinions be known, let their voices be heard, and hopefully, put some pressure on the ATF to make the changes that are necessary here?
So Kevin and Adam at Q have done a really great job of posting where you can go to do one click that'll send a click directly to the Department of Justice to voice your opinion. They've set up the link to the White House, and they've set up a link to various congressmen and senators that are the ones that are essentially financing or they deal with the ATF's money, on how much money they get and they don't get. Those people need to know. They need to understand what the ATF is doing. And so Q's done a great job. SB Tactical, my company, we set up the same types of links so that you can go there and you can see those on our Instagram account on SB Tactical. The other thing that we've been working with, and I'm a member of now, is Frac Action, and that's fracaction.org. And essentially what Frac Action is a coalition of industry members that are essentially there to make sure that regulatory agencies like the ATF are compliant to our needs as industry members. Because as industry members, we want to follow the law. But if you don't give us the parameters under which we can work, then somebody needs to come to you, the ATF, as one of those regulatory agencies, and make sure that you're doing it the right way. And Frac Action has the war chest to be able to do that. I haven't seen NSSF do that. I haven't seen, in the past, I haven't seen the NRA do that. So fracaction.org is another one of those agencies.
All right. Listen, I mean, you talk about the timing of this just weeks before the election. What is your message to gun owners who may well be thinking, this is ridiculous. Why isn't the Trump administration doing more to put a stop to this?
So I want to clear some things up because I've seen a lot of this online. I've seen a lot of people saying, well, it was Trump. Trump put in Regina Lombardo, who's the now acting director. Trump has yet to the ATF yet because he's been dealing with Russia, impeachment, COVID, riot, you name it. I mean, he's got everything thrown at him. And because he's not a politician, he didn't understand when he took office, I think, that he had to come in and get rid of everybody and put his people in, which is what Obama did. It's what Bush did. It's what presidents and politicals do because they understand that they can find that if they don't do that, there are people that are intertwined, interwoven into all of these agencies that will frustrate whatever agenda you try to implement. And so to clear it up, the ATF is not Trump's ATF, okay? There are political hacks there that are attempting to frustrate his ability to be reelected. And I think that the only way this really gets resolved is if the president gets involved or the Department of Justice gets involved and lets them know what they need to be doing.
What do you think happens if Joe Biden and Kamala Harris win in November? What happens then with the ATF?
Then I think organizations like Frack Action are going to be really the only group of people that will have the war chest to come and try and stick it to them, because at that point it goes to the courts. Unless it goes to Congress. I mean, ideally, okay, we can have a conversation about bump stocks. Okay, for example, bump stocks. I don't think they should have. Look, let me clear this up. I don't think they should have been, made illegal. We can talk about that, but that's another show. But the reality is we can have a intellectually honest discussion about how bump stocks are force multipliers. Okay, they raise the volume of fire. We can talk about that, and therefore there is a conversation to say, well, maybe we need to look at that. Well, braces are not force multipliers. If I remove a brace from a gun, the gun is the gun. Mm-hmm. There's no issue there. But the reality of it is that Congress is the one that makes these decisions, not the ATF. If ATF wants to go to Congress and say, we think that these braces are a problem, they have full right to do that. What they don't have a right to do is to keep the industry in the dark with parameters that nobody knows, that are vague, and then say, I gotcha. And if you don't fix that, you're going to go to prison. That's wrong. It's un-American. It shouldn't happen. And the idea that an agency, an armed agency, after having been told by the Department of Justice to either come up with parameters or leave it alone, sends out their armed branch of service, their agents, their henchmen, to a company that has always abided by the law and accuse them with the force of law, felony crime, to collect these guns based on knowledge that nobody has. People need. I mean, maybe I'm a little bit too emotional, guys, and I think you could probably see it and hear it in my voice. But somebody needs to be talking about this. I mean, they tried to put somebody in prison on something that's not a law. They don't want to give you parameters, and they're telling them with a cease-and-desist letter. They've essentially blocked his business. They said, you can't sell this product anymore in a period of time where I could sell a gun that has a unicorn horn on it right now, and it'll sell. And the government went to Kevin and told him he can't do anything. Well, we're all selling braces. What's the deal here? Why are you going to Kevin other than to make a political statement? And you've made one. You've made one by sending your henchmen and accusing this person of a felony crime. Somebody needs to go down to ATF and say, that's wrong. Whoever came up with that idea to do what's just been done needs to be fired. That person needs to be gone.
Alex Bosco with SP Tactical, frackaction.org.
.org.
All right. Listen, thank you for coming on the program and talking about this issue. I know this is not going away anytime soon, so we would love to have you back at any point in the future when there are any new developments here. And in the meantime, man, thank you for being in the fight and for speaking up about this.
Thank you so much for having me on your show.
All right. I appreciate Alex joining us on the program. We are going to continue to follow this case in this situation, and we will report any developments as they happen. But again, you can go to NRA. There's a one-click stop for you to send a message to the ATF, the Trump administration. And again, we will keep you updated on the latest developments here. All right, right now, let's turn our attention to today's armed citizen story, our good deed of the day, as well as our recidivist report. We're going to start there with a case out of Louisiana. Here's the headline for you. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. Labadevil man gets probation after pleading guilty to shooting charge. Okay. There's a little bit more going on than just the headline would indicate. 57-year-old Kevin Hamilton of Labadevil, Louisiana, pleaded guilty to aggravated assault with a firearm, illegal use of weapons or dangerous instrumentalities, and was given probation after he was caught illegally firing a gun earlier this year. After Hamilton entered his negotiated plea, District Judge Alvin Turner Jr. Gave the defendant a 1-year suspended sentence with credit for time served, by the way. I don't even know how does that even work? Suspended sentence with credit for time served? 1 year of supervised probation. Hamilton was originally arrested back in May following a disturbance in the Assumption Parish. Deputies responded to a call of somebody firing a gun at a residence. Witnesses then told deputies where the suspect was located. When deputies found Hamilton, they found a shotgun. They found a open-bladed knife in his possession. Hamilton was arrested, booked into the Assumption Parish Detention Center on charges of disturbing the peace, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, aggravated assault with a firearm, and illegal use of weapons. Now, in this case, nobody was hurt. That's good. So you can maybe say, well, look, this wasn't a violent crime. And I would agree this was not a violent crime. However, given the criminal history of Kevin Hamilton, I mean, look, if this case had been referred to the U.S. Attorney's Office for prosecution, Hamilton would have been looking at 5 years in a federal prison, and he would have had to serve at least 85% of that sentence before he would be eligible for early release. Instead, Hamilton gets a couple of months, slap on the wrist, year probation, sent on his merry way. All right, our armed citizen story of the day from Columbus, Ohio, where a store clerk shot a would-be robber at a store. This happened Thursday night in Columbus, Ohio. An exchange of gunfire. Actually, it was early Friday morning, about 1 o'clock this morning. According to the Columbus Division of Police, 2 armed suspects wearing masks entered a Beechcroft newsstand, demanded money from the clerk. Police say the clerk fatally shot one of the suspects during an exchange of gunfire. The other suspect fired shots as well, striking the clerk and a customer before running from the scene. The robbery suspect that was fatally shot identified as 19-year-old Juane Hawkins Payne. The clerk and the customer both treated and released from local hospitals, so thankfully their injuries not severe. The other robbery suspect, 20-year-old Dathan Jones, arrested according to police. He has now been charged with murder in the death of his alleged accomplice, as well as he will soon be facing attempted robbery charges, I'm guessing, as well, there in Columbus, Ohio. And finally today, our good deed of the day from Brockton, Massachusetts, where the police chief actually came to the aid of a choking 3-month-old child. Yeah, this is a scary situation for the mom here. Julia Ledger said her baby Audrey was struggling to breathe, so she called 911. She said, I heard a big scream. I ran to my mom, and she was holding my daughter. She couldn't breathe. She had mucus coming out of her mouth and her nose. 911 dispatcher alerts, all available units. Closest on the scene actually was Chief Manny Gomez. He said, I don't know of any more urgent call than that. He said, this mobilizes the entire city. Everyone's going. Scariest call you can get as a police officer. Gomes was able to perform back blows on the 3-month-old child and used his finger to clear her mouth in order to get her airway unobstructed. Audrey quickly became alert, started breathing again. Her mom says, I thank God, I thank the chief. I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have my daughter. I still have my baby girl. I could have been leaving this hospital without her. I am very, very thankful. So in the right place at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing. Chief Manny Gomez there in Brockton, Massachusetts, we thank you for your very good deed. That is all the time we've got for you on this edition of Bearing Arms Cam & Company. I hope that you have a fantastic weekend. Unless I get to an indoor range somewhere, I'm probably not going to be able to do any plinking this weekend, as we're supposed to get dumped on with rain, but that's okay. I'll save my ammo for a sunny day hope that you get the opportunity to maybe head out and exercise your Second Amendment rights safely and responsibly. We'll be back Monday with more of the latest Second Amendment news and information from all across the nation. But in the meantime, be well, be safe, be free. We'll see you soon with another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam & Company.